So my sister is an artist. The other day she says to me, hey, I'm working on something and I think you could help. And I was like, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. And she goes, you know how to crochet, right? And I'm like, yeah, and I wasn't lying. I made a dishcloth once.
I'm Casey and I am an artist. Earlier in the year, a group of us put in a proposal to exhibit at Stoddart Cottage, and just recently we heard back. It was a yes, which is really exciting, but we've got a relatively tight time frame to work with, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but it also gives you a little bit of a boost to get on with things. The theme of the show is the in-between. So this project I'm working on at the moment, it's my mother's grandmother's garden. Mum was telling me about her grandmother. For whatever reason, this was all new to me. The fact that it was new just meant I was sort of really quite interested in it. Decided to look a bit deeper in that, and I interviewed my aunties. Through that, I just got this amazing picture of a woman who was this lovely woman, and her garden was so important to her. And every one of my aunties and mum told me about different flowers, and sometimes the same flowers in a different way, that grew in her garden. One of the stories that keeps coming back is to do with Grandma Mulligan's time, probably maybe one of the toughest parts of her life, where she was a young mother and working full-time with possibly not a lot of support. And in the evenings, if there was any sunlight left, she would come and tat and crochet. So I wanted to crochet back into these flowers that ended up becoming part of her life.
There are so many things that you can learn to do by just watching YouTube tutorials. But I just feel like I want to have it on a bit of paper. I want to have a book. And also, realistically, I'm just copying what they're doing. I'm not actually learning how to read a crochet pattern. And with this project, not only am I going to try to figure out how to make this really nice, beautiful crochet lace, I want to be able to make it an unusual shape. So I need to be able to understand it enough that I can make it in a shape that is not the same as the YouTube tutorial. So I am going to go to the library. Okay, I didn't make it to the library. On the way to the library, I thought maybe I might be able to find something in our op shop. There were stacks and stacks of knitting books and patterns, but the only thing about crochet that I could find in there was this amazing book, Crocheting Placemats. So this was printed in 1978, but it's a collection of patterns from various publications from the mid-1930s to the late 40s. The issue is, I just feel like I can't even read it, so I'm gonna learn. So you have asked me to help on just one of the pieces that you're doing.
Yes, please. That would be amazing.
I guess the other question I have down here is, why can't you do it?
Yeah, well, that's fair, cool. And to be honest, I did have a little go at it. I have never crocheted before, and the learning hurdle for me to get over was too big for me to do in the next month before this is done. I like that it's also your great-grandmother.
I have crocheted. I have never done anything particularly intricate, so I'm learning a lot, but I do enjoy the challenge of it. It's like decoding like little puzzles and stuff.
That's so cool, and that's the other reason, because I didn't love doing it. so that is really yeah.
So it's been dawning on me just how much work this actually is. It's not so much like the volume of work, but just how are we actually going to get it done? I don't know, I had some thought that I was just going to show up on that following Monday to Casey's, and she was going to present me with these amazing paintings that she'd done, and I was going to surprise her with an oversized piece of crochet that we could then use to try to figure out how it was going to be laid out, and then use that piece of crochet to sort of create a pattern for the real piece. Yeah, I didn't do that. I gave up relatively quickly because, look, I only have so much like crochet in me, and I want to keep a lot of that for actually the real thing. So that Monday came, and Casey was like, I haven't been able to do it. And look, I'm not complaining. She's got so much more work to do, but mine is quite time consuming. So I'm feeling pressure to start actually making progress, so I'm not up till midnight like later on. Some of these flowers that she's painting are not the most common, so once she finds someone and then it finally comes into bloom, it's like you can't do anything else. Drop everything, get that done, because she has to paint it before, you know, it wilts. A few days later, she still hadn't managed to do the final painting, but she decided on the composition. She drew that out on a piece of paper as a sort of pattern so that I could figure out what parts I needed to crochet and what parts were going to be paintings. The things that we have from Grandma Mulligan are these two beautiful doilies, these circular doilies. Originally I had thought of like making the whole sort of rectangle as one giant bit of crochet, but I think it will be, easier and also more effective to have it like several crochet doilies sort of laid out holding this painting together. And then that allows me to be creative with the different types of crochet doilies that I'm making, and I'll be working with smaller pieces, so I'm hoping that that makes it easier to do the unusual angles and attach it to the paper and create edges and things like that. The following Monday comes around, she still hasn't had time to do the proper painting, and I've just been playing around with things. I haven't actually started making any of the real crochets. Finally, there was a long weekend and Casey got a moment and she actually managed to do these amazing paintings. She posted them on Instagram, so I know they exist. They should be coming over soon, and then I can really see what I'm working with. So like on paper, this shouldn't be this hard. Like, today is the 19th of November. The deadline is the 16th of December, which is like almost a month. That's fine. This is not the only thing that either Casey or I are doing. And then there's like, you know, all the normal stuff. Making sure there's food in the house, everyone's got clean clothes to wear, cleaning the house, kids to school on time, the days when they're home from school, birthday parties, Christmas parties, end of term, this and that, and school, camp, Christmas shopping. Oh my God, I haven't even thought about that. And somewhere in the middle of all that, we have to find not only the time, but the brain space to like do something creative. To a deadline as well. We're actually having family coming and staying, so I don't want to be working up until the deadline. My personal time that I want to have it finished by and hand it back to Casey is the 12th. So hopefully Casey will be able to drop that off soon and I can actually move on to the next part. This is still fun. Yeah. So after stressing so much about whether or not I'm going to get it, I've got it now, and now I'm really nervous. Hello, did you want to go outside? So I've been practicing a lot. I cut out a shape to match. I think there's nothing to it, but I've got to just actually start for real. Part of me wants to keep practicing and figure it out, but honestly, the sooner I start, the more time I'm going to have to completely redo it when I mess it right up. So it is the 3rd of December That is 9 days until I'm hoping to have this finished, for anyone who's counting. I've been making progress. There's still a lot to go. I've just been getting it done in any of the moments that I can set aside to do this, while also getting everything else done. As I've been sitting here for hours on end crocheting, I have recently started thinking a bit about another relative, about my grandma, Grace, who's on the other side of the family from Grandma Mulligan. And I've been thinking about her because she wrote a book. And there is one paragraph in here which has been going through my head lately. I came back to Christchurch full of enthusiasm. I would write a book. With it all in there in my head, I reasoned it could be finished in a few weeks, months at the most. I brought out the typewriter, but soon put it back. I had to shift the hoses first and bring in the washing. Then the man brought the groceries and the children arrived back from school with their friends. The telephone rang, and before I could blink, I was back in the kitchen peeling the spuds for our dinner.
I think I've always been interested in these kind of stories that carry on across generations. And in traditional history, the narratives usually go from man to man, and that the female narrative is often a little bit overlooked or lost. I was fortunate enough to be part of a pop-up studio in the Oxford Gallery, where we had, I think it was 4 weeks to work in the gallery. And so I worked on that, and I gathered all these flowers and I painted them, and I looked at the stories and talked to people who came in and told me stories about their grandparents and great-grandparents, and it was fascinating. But at the end of the 4 weeks, I kind of had a collection of pictures of flowers, which wasn't quite where I wanted to go with it. And I knew that I wanted to look at the story itself a little bit. So fast forward to now, and we've got this opportunity, and being able to look at it through the lens of Inbetween allows me to get a little bit deeper conceptually. And in a way, the stories have their own kind of thing. And the stories are sort of, they're in between the reality, and they're also connecting people. So through this process, I interviewed my aunties and talked to my mum, and also they talked to each other. And then I'd hear back from mum, so-and-so said this about, they just suddenly remembered this and called me to tell me about it. Or I get included in on an email where 2 of my aunties are discussing the name of a particular plant that they had remembered. And even as far as getting sent photos of a blue rose which was taken from a cutting from Grandma Mulligan's garden from my mum's cousin. So all these people are talking to each other about these memories, and it's kind of alive in a sort of way.
So I have finally connected all the pieces together, which just means that I can keep going round and round and making them bigger and filling up the gaps. I just wanted to talk about this one down here in the corner. So I really like this petal sort of pattern here, and in my book that I found at the op shop, this one here has got the petals all the way around it. So I used this to try to figure out how to do that, and I tell you what, it really defeated me when I first started, but I kept at it. I eventually figured out what it was actually trying to get me to do. So I really wanted to incorporate that into one of them because it's from the original piece from Grandma Mulligan, and also because I felt quite proud of myself actually figuring this out. So I've done that where we've got the flower in the middle and then we've got the petals coming around. Now there's another pattern here with this really interesting sort of almost shell-like pattern. So I found this one in here. It's like a more simplified version, and I just thought that these looked amazing. There is some challenge to making it look this stunning while being hung on a wall. So I started putting wire to go around the outside. The only white wire that I could get my hands on is actually thicker than I was hoping, so it's a little bit harder to use, but I still have managed to crochet around the wire so that I can shape it. So that's where I got to last night. And then I had a really good hard think about it. And to be honest, it's just not very good. I just don't have the time to unravel it and replace it with something else. But I am going to unravel it and replace it with something else. I worked really hard to get it finished by the 11th when our guests arrived, but I didn't quite manage it, so I was still working on it when they were staying. I got it finished enough by the 16th that I could take it to Casey's so she could take a photo to go with all of the paperwork she had to submit to the gallery by their deadline. And then I made a wireframe that I could sew onto the back of it so that it will hold its shape while it is hanging. So finally, I finished. Today is installation day. I have my crochet on the back. I am heading over to get Casey and all of her work, and then we and all the other artists in this exhibition are heading over to Diamond Harbour to hang everything and get it ready for the exhibition, which opens in a few days.
Welcome to Stoddart Cottage and the Inbetween, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to this group of artists.
So this was a really awesome experience. It was a bit more work than I was expecting, but I still had so much fun. The exhibition was really cool, and it was so fun to be able to work on something creative collaboratively, which I haven't really done before. And being able to just spend time thinking about and learning about my ancestors was really cool, and I'm really proud of what we created.
Champagne Iris, the softest of pinks. She was absolutely delighted with it. Her first child came when she was still a teenager. Her hands were strong, I've heard, which is just as well, because after that the work wouldn't have stopped. I open the box Mum has found me. It says Grandma's Crochet and Lace. It's full of delicately stitched pieces in various stages of completeness. I won't use her crochet, but I have an idea. So I call on my sister, and together we weave the stories of our great-grandmothers.